I can speak for myself and probably some of these other hosers here that we had no idea what what we would be doing once we graduated and walked across the stage. We'll see if your first job in architecture really lived up to the expectation. And so my goal was to keep this kind of loose, and I have like four main discussion topics. What did you think in college what architecture is? Straight out of college, I'm just trying to get what I can get. Who's to tell us or even prepare us for like architecture is such a vast field. Like you could go be how do I even know what I want to do? So an important thing from that is to like if you're not satisfied with the first job that you took, it's probably you're not going to find satisfaction down the line. So hop to something else. Do it while you're young.
We are
We need a
live
we
right
need a
now.
theme song.
Yeah, I was thinking today how we need an intro of sorts or like some like song or just like that. That'll play great in the podcast. Just all of a sudden out of proportion, loud audio. But welcome everybody out there, all 5 people, which is all of us playing our own stream back to it is what it is. And today is a panel discussion hosted by Tristy. And today I also want to do something a little bit different and try and incorporate a bit of a live editor role. And I'll take it over this time, but really in the moment, live, try and capture great talking points to clip up to hopefully make it a bit easier to edit later on rather than like going back into it and planning on having different kinds of editors also. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to our host and moderator for this evening, Christy
Oh, this is
Gonzalez.
gonna suck.
Gonzalez.
Dang. No respect.
Oh wait, I thought I was on mute. My bad.
So you just say
My
that to
bad,
yourself
bro.
all the time. All right. Welcome, hosers. This discussion, I'm going to ask you guys to reach back in your mind and find the earliest memories you had of architecture and what you thought it was. And then you'll think back to your journey through college, and kind of how you develop that perception of architecture in your mind, architecture as a whole, as well as the duties that architects do. And then we'll bring it to the present day, and you can kind of reflect and see like how much you got right, how far off you were. I was plenty far off. And we'll see if your first job in architecture really lived up to the expectation. And so my goal was to keep this kind of loose, and I have like four main discussion topics, but we do have a pretty good audience size here. So it's going to be mostly me asking the questions, and then we'll get everyone's kind of input, and discuss more as we go. So this could take an hour, it could take 3, but we're gonna have fun because I'm gonna ask you guys to really like think about and reflect on some things that might clear up for some people, like what architecture actually is, especially architecture students, like students who are going into college, even ones that are in the middle of college and don't have a job quite yet. Because I know I can speak for myself and probably some of these other hosers here that we had no idea what we would be doing once we graduated and walked across the stage. We had studio in school, and that was plenty difficult, but going into the office was a whole different ball game. So we'll start with the first topic. And I want you guys to think back way before you were even in college. And this is kind of going to be like put yourself in the shoes of what I would call like a commoner person, someone outside of architecture. So before you even joined college, what did you think an architect did on a day-to-day basis? And we'll start with Juan. We'll throw you in the boat. What did you think architects did before you even started your education in architecture?
Well, for me, I kind of already had that firsthand experience due to my family being in the trade of construction and even like other trades such as welding, insulation, and a few other things that had to deal with the built environment. And so I kind of already knew what to expect, not essentially how it would be ran, but I had that firsthand experience in residential. And I remember seeing some of the designs or some of the cool features that were being built in houses and even exterior applications like pavilions and fences. So it wasn't much of a new thing. It was something basically that was in my blood, honestly. Just something I knew I wanted to be because it was already there for me to do. And I truly enjoyed doing it at a young age. I liked going out there, helping my pops out, or helping my uncles out with whatever they needed help with. So it wasn't really such that I didn't know what it was, but I just didn't know the details of what an architect really was.
So you kind of saw it from like the end product side, like the construction side almost.
Yeah,
Funny
and
because I I feel like I'm the opposite where like I haven't even really touched the construction stuff until I got in an architecture job.
it's crazy.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's
I mean,
always been crazy for me, especially in school. I remember everyone would be like, "All right, so how do I put this wall together?" And
yeah.
I'm just like, "Well, start with the stud and go from there." Everyone's like, "Oh, like what's a stud?" And I'm just like, "Dang, I'm a little ahead of the game here."
Yeah. We need to bring back like I don't know if this is a bad thing to say, but like the blue collarness of architecture and like knowing like the trade knowledge of in the construction process a lot more because especially in school like we don't really get too much into that besides a construction course. So that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioning blue collarness, it kind of reminds me of this one time we were putting the insulation on this big house, and they actually had blueprints, like actual blueprints. And I was like, whoa, these are blueprints. This is what an architect did. And I would try
Hey,
reading it, and I mean, I knew where the walls were going, but that's all I knew what to do. I didn't really know how to read those stuff. At that time, I was a young teenager, but it was pretty cool. I was like, dang, this is an actual like I didn't even see it as a profession. I saw it more as a like construction worker's job, honestly.
nice. And you did
Yeah.
this like from how
Oh,
young to when?
I was really young. I was like maybe fifth grade, sixth grade when I first started.
And technically you're like kind of running it now.
In
Aren't
a
you?
way, yeah. In a way, yeah.
Full
It's a
circle.
lot of time in that. So my dad does most of it, but I help here and there.
Nice. Lucas, since you popped up, what about you? Did you heard most of the intro and all that?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, what I thought about architecture before I was in it.
Yeah.
Um, I actually didn't know exactly what it was. I thought it was more of like a, I don't know, the homes that we lived in back when we were younger. That's kind of what an architect did to me.
Nice.
Yeah, like, oh, this is the bedroom and this is the kitchen, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of
Like,
where I was at.
Like
But-
Box in a
HGTV.
triangle. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. I mean, the reason I got into it was because I wanted a field that, was a little bit more on the creative side, and then a little bit also on the mathematical, the analytical mind side. And I think architecture fit quite well.
How much math do you do in your job?
Dude, I actually do quite a bit. Like
Aren't you
having
in healthcare?
No, not anymore. Luckily I escaped that after 4 years.
Oh,
But no, I do like laboratory research and multifamily housing, and yeah, like I choose to be on the front end of projects, so technically like the super creative side of things nowadays. But I mean, I still have to, when you're doing a parking garage, you're running some calculations, or you're trying to figure out, square footages versus people, and there's like equations for everything. Nothing crazy like we did in Meta's class or anything like that, but
cool.
Right.
still a little bit that keeps me entertained.
It's funny because one of the main like perceptions of architecture and what people ask you is, "Oh, you're really good at math."
But
It's
they
like,
do ask that.
Math and
I
drawing.
know how to, yeah, math and drawing, and you're like Einstein in those two categories.
Hey, take it.
It's like, hey, you can get by just perfectly without being good at either of those, really. I mean, it certainly does help, and it'll put you ahead of others, but a lot of people in the industry get by without that.
Very true. Yeah.
Cool. So looks like Monty's busy over there. Tyler, what about you, bud?
So I actually remember the first time I heard the term architecture, or architect, actually. I was in first or second grade, and we had this, like, I guess for all the smart kids back then. This was just coming out in the '90s, so all the smart kids got, grouped up into a separate group where they actually learned stuff, and they were like, "Okay, you guys, you can do these extra little." I don't know. I guess I don't know how they picked this, but I don't know why I was
Gifted
there.
and talented.
But, yeah, gifted, talented. They
I remember that.
I was in it every year.
They
I
ran that
owl
show.
pellets, like owl pellet dissection.
I mean, for first and second grader, how are you supposed to tell? I mean, we're all kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I remember they had this career thing, and I obviously did not remember until like the day of that. Oh yeah, we were doing this, and so I had to figure out what I wanted to be, what I had to present. You didn't have to bring anything; you just had to have an idea. And I don't know. I think I said something like football player or something like that. But the guy next to me brought, I think his dad gave him like plans of the school because his dad worked for, he was the principal. And he unrolled these plans, and he's like, I want to be an architect. I think he said it, mispronounced it probably. I don't know how he said it. And I just look at these drawings, I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I don't know. I don't know what these things are. What does that mean? What do you draw these? Is that what that means? And he explained it. He's like, oh, they build stuff, or they draw the pictures. And so I went to college still thinking that all we had to do. I think I took like a very beginning course. It wasn't actually an architecture school, and it was a local college, and he was kind of teaching you Revit, but it was very much, or actually AutoCAD. It was very much reduced, and it was like just drawing plans of houses that already existed. So it was like, is it this easy? Like, okay, I can draw pictures all day. I've been doing that my whole life. So
Nice. So you and Juan got to see like the drawing aspect of it pretty young. I feel like I was in it, like what drew me into it was the perspective images or just being in a building. So that's pretty interesting. If I would have saw the drawings, I probably would have chickened out pretty quick.
Yeah, I actually took on a job for a little while, blueprinting for architects before I was in school. So that was kind of when I made my decision. I was like, I think I can do these. Like, I'm a smart guy. I can figure these out. And yeah, that set me on my path.
That's cool. That's also another good point is like if I would have known I could have just like done draft work without a degree, I would have been all over that, you know, just trying to be involved in the architecture field without
Hmm.
having to have all these like degrees and license or anything. So that would have been cool. In fact, my first job probably didn't even require a degree, but we'll get to that.
Dang, throwing thoughts already.
Hey man, I'm not salty at all. Let's go with Ty.
Well, I guess I didn't really know what architecture was either when I first started. I think I went in, I mean, I remember when I was little, I had like building blocks. So I would build like, I remember me and my sister just kind of like building like forts or castles or something. So I think that's kind of where it started. But I definitely think thought architecture was, I think I associated architecture to houses. So I thought, oh, that's what architects do. I want to build pretty houses. So most of my, I guess, most of them are. I was thinking for a long time my path to architecture was gonna be, oh, I want to build. I just want to do residential. Like that's all I want to do. That's what architects do. Um, but little did I know that is not the case. There's a broad spectrum of architecture, and I think I was kind of looking back. I was introduced architecture at the urban scale during my undergrad, and then once I got to my master's, I realized, oh, okay, no, architecture is not just necessarily urban scale, but it's the building, but it's not how the building looks. It's how the building's made and how the spaces are made. So there's, I think throughout I've learned it's more than just what it looks like and how pretty it is. It's what goes in, how it's built and how it's created and how that space feels for the users.
So you started out being like architects do houses. That's what I want to do. Are you still on that residential path, would you say?
No, I kind of threw that out the window pretty quickly. I
Yeah.
kind of figured, because I think residential is like not a niche, but I felt since I was starting my career, or just starting my career, I didn't want to like pinhole myself into only doing residential, and then 20 years later be like, oh, I want to go do something else, but then I have zero experience, so it's kind of like not probably starting from scratch, but it probably would be or I guess feel like it would set me behind a few years if I had continued on that path. So
Yeah, definitely.
Broadening my horizon of what architecture is, what's
Yeah,
out
I
there.
feel a lot of us probably feel the same way because everyone would ask me, like my family would ask me, have you decided if you want to do residential or commercial yet? I'm like, no, I don't even know like what each one constitutes yet. So just give me a few years, chill out. I am kind of leaning residential, but you never know. So I mean, I barely worked in residential so far. So
It's such a Sim City question. Like, there's two fields. That's it.
yeah,
Like,
right.
no possible
Dichotomy.
other thing. We've never been to another type of building before.
Well, the crazy thing is, my whole I thought, okay, architecture, it's just residential and just commercial. So who built schools? Who built hospitals? Like, I don't know. I don't know why that just never. I guess I don't know. Maybe residential and commercial are just the most common, or like multifamily are the most common buildings we see. So that's like kind of like easier to
Or is
compile.
commercial a big what do you call it? Does it include things like schools and all that? Because I mean I've heard kind of both ways where like commercial is the big umbrella that contains everything but residential basically.
Guess it just depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll throw it to Gustavo.
So pretty much for me, I had never actually thought about architecture. Not in depth as I was growing up or in high school. In high school senior year, I was signing up for colleges and whatnot, and I was telling one of my teachers I want to go into game design. He was like, "No, choose something else." And I was like, "Okay, I like drawing, and I help my dad build cabinets. We have a cabinet business, so drawings and cabinets, architecture. So that's how I ended up choosing architecture as my field. Um, the vague idea that I had in my head about architecture was that you draw something and then you build it or you give physical form, and that was my only understanding of it at the very beginning. But yeah,
So you
going
were
through
gonna
school, that's
you
a
were
whole different
gonna
thing.
grow up and join an office and just draw things. They get turned into physical things somehow.
Yep, that was the original thought.
Hey man, that's a good plan
Mhm.
right there.
Really
You
into
don't ever
Minecraft
feel
too at
like
the
you
beginning.
should. You don't ever feel like you should probably like investigate the other option you had now that architecture is a part of that.
Mm,
Talking about video games.
sure.
Yeah,
Because I
Ooh.
there's a
mean,
lot of architects in that field now.
yeah, I haven't looked into it, but it's a good option B, just to have here on the side for later, maybe.
I think we
That's
actually,
that's my fallback as well, actually.
well, we actually have some guys at our firm that, like, I've been scanned. My face has been scanned and put in as a character for like one of the people in our firm to walk around as, and it's kind of creepy.
They have you now.
Yeah,
You're in the
my
Matrix.
wife hates
Wow.
it. She says it's like a Terminator version. It's really weird.
Oh man, that's funny. Cool.
That's pretty cool.
So Monty or Vanessa, are y'all ready? All situated over there.
Yeah, we are. I will let her go first.
Vanity. Just call it vanity.
Vanity.
So,
Vanity.
yeah, I got into architecture. I don't know how. I know. So, I started thinking a lot about my career at a very young age.
Thinking a lot about my career at a
Dude!
I started thinking about what I should do, basically out of like necessity. So my dad was in the military, and
my dad was in the
Dude!
Come on, man.
It wouldn't be a Hoser Squad stream without some technical difficulty.
I don't know.
Is there issues?
No, it's all good.
Okay.
It's my fault.
Well, you could turn the.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad's in the military, and so in my life, that was the stable career for my parents. But my parents were on off for a long time, and so in that, my mom was a server, and she worked at a restaurant a lot of times,
worked at a
and
restaurant a lot of
we were
times.
struggling for a long time. So I started thinking long term, like what will get us ahead. And yeah, I would say for a while I was paralyzed about what I wanted to do. So I started thinking about my career at 12, and I had originally, so when I was 12, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer. But I was like, I'm still in middle school, so I'm going to have fun, because going into law sounds a bit boring right now. So that's what I'm going to look into in high school. I'm in middle school, so what do I like to do? I like to do art. So I joined an art class. I did and part of it kind of was on accident, because I was drawing a lot, and my art teacher in elementary noticed, and she told me to apply to an art magnet for this school called West Junior High. And so I applied, because this school, I had to apply to it because I wasn't in that jurisdiction. It wasn't my school district, but it wasn't like assigned to me. So I had to apply, and I did. And I took like this sort of advanced art class, and in that my art teacher, I think in 8th grade, she told us to look into careers in art. And so I started looking into interior design. I don't even know how or how I knew what that was, because I don't know anything. But I think I noticed like, oh, I thought interior design was more like interior decorating. That's something my mom'd always liked to do. So I had envisioned myself doing something like that. And I created this presentation for my class. All of us had to do it for the career we picked. And then in that's when I first heard the word architecture, but it kind of like was in the back of my head again. So in 8th grade, I had a choice in high school to apply to the law magnet or art magnet. And at this point, I was like, okay, it's time to get serious because high school is gonna lead to college. So I actually applied to the law magnet and I got accepted. But then my parents, so essentially I moved unexpectedly. And so that plan was thrown out the window. My parents moved unexpectedly. I moved to California for 3 months, and then I moved back to Texas, but not in Dallas. I moved this time to Lufkin, Texas, which was in the middle of nowhere. It's in the piney woods by Nacogdoches. It's really out of like nowhere. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I can't. My plans are gone. And I asked my counselor when I started if they had anything like law related or architecture related, and she told me, no, but you can take accounting. I think you can develop skills there that could lead into law. And I was like, how does that make sense? But I was like, okay, well, do you have anything architecture related? And she said, yeah, we actually have a drafting class. And so I signed up because I was like, there's nothing for me at this school. I have to change plans and like just fill the time in. And I thought that I could just gain some skills in architecture. And especially, so I took architecture for 4 years, but it was just like an extracurricular. And in freshman year, I started learning AutoCAD. Second year, I don't remember what we did. But third year was the year that made the difference, because by third year, I started seriously considering architecture. And what made the difference was actually Skills USA. My teacher, he picked 4 students.
Hey,
Yeah, Tristan, that made a difference for him too. But I was picked out of the 4 students that my teacher had of all his classes to compete in the state level. We did it's really basic, but for high school, it was like my first AutoCAD project. We did drawings for raised gardens. So I kind of worked with CDs, but like a basic level. And when we submitted those, I was in 2 categories. I forget which ones, but there was like a civil engineering and something else. And so when I went to the competitions, at first I went to Beaumont, but no one was competing with us, so we automatically went into the next level, which was the state level, and we went to Corpus Christi. And then that's when I was really tested, because they gave me this assignment and I just did not understand it at all. They told me to do something in AutoCAD, and I was like, I don't get it. But I mean, the whole experience was really fun. I also liked the people I met, and then apart from that, seeing other people's projects, and then of course Skills USA had a bunch of stuff. So I would say that like I didn't really have any experience in architecture other than like that AutoCAD skill. I also in Lufkin High School, my high school also partnered with the fire department, and we designed a ceremonial bell, like a logo basically. So that was fun. So like seeing those little projects, it was like good, but I would say that like every time I'm surprised about how much I don't know in architecture, because I thought architecture was like, I knew it had to do with drawings and eventually it would lead to buildings. I thought it would be super difficult, and it is. It's just more manageable than I thought. I would say a lot of things I'm still learning, especially in the field. So that's my answer.
Nice. So you bounced around quite a bit throughout school and all that. It's funny that you bounce from like one noble profession to like the other, like accounting and being a lawyer. Like people say those are like the top ones, is like accountant, lawyer. Rarely people say
Doctor.
architect, doctor, of course. But hell yeah, high hopes. All right, we all know Monty's answer, so we'll skip him. Go ahead. This guy.
Were you even introduced to architecture, bro?
In
Did
the
you even know
womb.
what it was?
Did you just end up in it by
I was
accident?
born
like
in it.
they ran out.
I was molded in it. I grew up. It was in the womb. I had architecture.
Oh
Got a
wow.
pencil.
It's never ending. No games, no sports, just architecture. That's what y'all
That
think. Anyway.
sucks.
Like it was no catch. It was party sketches. Whole life.
Jeez.
Just partied on Monty as soon as he got out the room.
Like, hey. So for myself, with my dad being an architect, it just was more normal. It was like every day, but it wasn't ever like pushed on me much more. So I was completely immersed in it. Like our place had like odd couches or clean bookshelves, or it's very more minimalistic rather than being extremely ornamental. And I thought that was like kind of normal, like growing up, but it wasn't quite like so Orbesk of being so like unlivable. It was like still quite homey. And growing up, I got to more see my dad work. I would have questions of like, oh, so like, what do you do? Where are you going every day? On and on. And the first memory I had that really stuck out is we built a guest house, or we built an addition onto my grandparents' guest house, and I was 4, 5, 6 ish, and I saw all of the studs in place, foundation poured, and just basically walked all past it. And that was one of my more earlier memories of being like, hey, we're going to do this, and then okay, here it is, it's built. And then the people who own the house now have since paid the guest house and the main house just one big house. So it's basically just all connected. But growing up, it was much more about, we just had books about it on the shelf. And I thought that was more normal. And then in school, I wasn't ever that artistic, so I pushed more on the engineering aspect because I just crushed physics. But as I learned what that profession was, and I realized that was actually the easier choice, and that being an architect was harder because I had to learn how to graphically show stuff because I was not an artist. I struggled in trying to draw, so I had to actually learn how to draw on the right side of my brain, and basically it all started at that book of like, okay, I can actually draw some. Oh, okay, let's roll. And then I had all the classes at UTA, and I'm but by no means any artist now, but overall it's the ability to display an idea graphically, and that's really all our job is.
Yeah.
Castle.
So, Monty, before you got into college, did you have any idea what architects did? Did you know what your dad did on a daily?
Not really, because I would go to his office quite a bit, but as a kid, it's like, oh, I'm just at an office, so I'm gonna go fuck off and like
Run
eat the
down the
snacks
hallway.
and like hang out, and like
Bro,
whatever
what
it
a
is,
noob.
So it wasn't ever gripping until I was a little older. Growing up, I played with a bunch of like all the buildable type games from Legos, obviously, but Lincoln logs and just like building shit, from boards to everything.
Yeah.
But
So I
no,
have one
I
one
did.
important question
Mm-hmm.
just for you, Monty.
What?
So for for bedtime reading, did your dad read Complexity and Contradiction to you?
That's Morgan. That's so funny. No, no. He did read stuff like Harry Potter, and y'all
Hey,
ever read Artemis Fowl?
no.
Yeah.
Noah Rourke?
No
Yeah.
Fountainhead, no complexity
Hey.
and contradiction.
Did he really love you though?
That's
I'm
so
playing, I'm
funny.
playing.
That's so funny.
I love it.
We were
All
at How
right.
Much House.
Um, so I guess for me, so this discussion actually kind of spawned from the interview that Monty and I had over the weekend, because I kind of like looked back and I was like, what did I even think architecture was growing up, and like did it even live up to, like, I mean, am I living what I wanted to live as a young kid pursuing architecture, or did I just kind of accept what I was given as I went? So for me, architecture was kind of, so I told Monty in the interview that an aptitude test kind of told me that I should go for architecture. And of course, an aptitude test is based off your personality. So and this one wasn't like some like published psychology thing. It was just kind of like an internet aptitude test. But I said, hey, I'm creative and I like to build things with my hands. And so it said, hey, you should try architecture. So I just looked up like who are architects, who's the most famous architect, and of course like Frank Lloyd Wright came up, and Falling Water and like all those like smaller projects kind of popped up, and so I was like, oh, I want to do that. So like I guess my creative side like immediately attached to that sort of thing, because I've always been kind of on the creative side. But I kind of look down on art as a profession, because even as a I know, as a high schooler, even I was like, can you really make a job out of it? And I guess I wanted to be more more useful as a person to the world, and I wanted to make some kind of difference. I guess in the physical form. So that's why I went with architecture. I know, disgusting, right, Luca? Art is
Yeah,
just as important. Art is architecture, right? I know
exactly.
you can dude me for that.
Are you lazy?
Um, so with that, we'll move to the second question. So progressing forward a bit, now you're in college.
Wow,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'll mute that one.
What that was.
I named that one Smackdown in honor of Gustavo. So going forward, you're in college, you don't have a job yet in architecture. What, like, how has your thought process or your meaning of architecture and what architects do, how has it evolved and changed? And do you think you knew exactly what you would be doing once you graduated, basically? And we will start with Ty for this one.
Well, I guess I didn't get my undergrad in architecture, so I had my urban planning, which got me, which helps me lead to why I really did want to do architecture, because I did work. So my urban planning degree got me a couple internships with the city of Dallas and DART. And during those internships, I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do. It was very, I guess, slow pace, and I didn't really, wasn't very fulfilling. And I know they're internships, so like short. So, but those are that. So, but that just kind of encouraged me even more to want to do architecture. And I wanted to do architecture undergrad, but certain circumstances I wasn't able to. So, and then come grad school, I had zero clue what to expect from architecture. I hadn't, I guess I wasn't really around any other architects. Looking back, I kind of wish I had like done like an architecture internship or talked to a real architect to kind of get a realistic feel. Or maybe being naive going into architecture school was good, then I didn't have any expectations. But so that, but now working, and I worked during grad school at an architecture firm, but I didn't get to do a whole lot of actual architecture. I was like in their development sector, so I was reviewing like house plans. So I kind of was seeing it. So looking at plans and seeing what goes into a set, and then helping out on like some other projects that the firm was doing. So kind of got some exposure to it, but I wouldn't say I got a real feel of what architects actually do until I got my job after grad school. And once I did, so now working in the field, it's not what I expected, I guess. So there's a lot more than just designing a pretty building. There's a lot more that goes into it. A lot of moving parts, I guess you could say. So I think it was a big jump from school to where you kind of don't have to deal with all those moving parts, like budget, consultants, the entirety of what actually goes or what makes a building happen or get built. Because school's kind of like, oh, like it does a good job at teaching you a concept of to come up with an idea. And then, but I don't think you don't get a full picture on how that idea becomes a reality until you get to the real world.
Yeah, I think in a way that I feel a little betrayed by school because it kind of pumps you full of like hopes and dreams of being like the greatest designer, being the next Frank Lloyd Wright. But then you get out in the world and they're like, do some bathrooms and then we'll figure out what to do with you next.
Yep.
Wait, but we had a podcast on this. On the did school prepare us?
Yeah.
So go check it out.
Yeah. and it all comes together, and like, yeah. And that's what this question is for, is like, is the school, how, like, what's that gap like between school and working, and like, what do your day-to-day tasks go from school to working? You know, you go from like in the studio with pencils and markers and all this, trying to, or in the computer even, trying to master the best rendering ever, to if you don't have good technical skills with the software that the firm uses, now you're training on that, and they're probably not going to trust you with anything more than like a bathroom for the first week or so. So yeah, Tyler, what about you?
Well, if you could just rehash the question so I don't go on a tangent.
Sure, yeah. So moving forward from before you were in school, now you're in school and you're kind of looking forward to your first job. What do you think you're going to do once you get to that office?
Yeah, okay. Well, I just like in school, how when when I transitioned into school at the very beginning, you're kind of like, there's actually a meme about it. You're kind of like the bottom of the food chain, right? Like, and this is a social concept that works in everything. I think if you want to start, I don't know, a bowling team or something, and you join a team, you're the new guy, and the new guy is always the bottom. So it, I kind of expected that for a few years I would be, when I transitioned into the field, that I would probably be doing stuff I didn't want to do. Probably a lot of just kind of letting other people do the big idea stuff that I want to do, like the design side of things. And I know, well, that's kind of going on a tangent. If I had known what I knew now, I would have gone at it a little bit different, but I'm glad that I did it the way I did it, because I learned that it's extremely important to learn those skills early on, transitioning out of school. We can get back to that later on, but to stay on the question, I think that, yeah, I thought it was very much going to be difficult at first, and I was right a little bit. There were some things that I didn't expect that would happen. I didn't expect as many site visits. I didn't expect as much, I guess, bonding with the people around me. I didn't really bond with a lot of the people I was in school with, not on a close level until grad school, I'd say. Early years, not so much. I think I was still wrapping my head around how much I hated the process of it, and the lack of sleep. But that was another thing I didn't expect, was how much sleep I would be getting and how much better I would feel. So
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Luca, you said you might have to dip in a bit. What was your thoughts going through college?
I loved college, honestly. I'm not one of those people that, dreaded it. I thrived. I had a great time. I don't know. I think for me, undergrad was a bit more enjoyable than grad school, just because halfway through grad school, COVID hit, which, I mean, for everyone changed everything, which kind of fucking sucked, because undergrad was so fun. And I knew that, people with a lot of experience, people with a lot of knowledge going into grad school would be so much fun. But then here I was sitting, in my parents' house, in my room all day, all night, working on projects all alone, here and there, sometimes getting on Discord calls with buddies just to, talk about, I guess, our designs. But for undergrad, I don't know. I think it was a great experience. You mentioned.
So the question was.
Oh, sorry.
What did you think? Yeah, you're good. You're good. The question was, what did you think you were going to be doing once you got a job, basically? Were you one of the ones that got a job pretty early, or was it out of undergrad? Just right out of undergrad, right?
Yeah, I got it. Shit, when did I get my first job? I want to say it was senior year of undergrad, which like end of it when I started.
Okay.
But what did I expect?
Yeah.
That's tough. I expected to be doing a lot of hand sketches and renderings and model building, like hand model building, right? And I get to the job and I did a lot of hand sketches and model building inside, obviously, like with computers, the computers help.
Right.
Unfortunately, not so much the hand aspect of it, which is one thing that I would have loved to have happen. So far, it's happened once where I fixed a famous architect's model that was shipped to Arlington and
shit.
was destroyed during the shipping process. But yeah, other than that, kind of lived up to the expectations of just sketching, listening to a lot of old people talk, and you know, being in Revit and SketchUp and AutoCAD at the point in time.
So you kind of jumped ahead and told me what you did at your job already. That's the next question, but it's fine. You thought you kind of got what you expected, right? Like you thought you would be, except it was more like digitalized, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely got what I expected. I think for me the curious part was how other people acted in the office. That's what I was not ready for, and I had no way of understanding what that would be like. People like professors, right? Professors in school sometimes were assholes. They demanded something of you, and you had to have it. And you had like almost no voice unless you really pushed ahead. Versus in the professional setting, man, they would like sit down with you and listen. At least this was my experience, right? They would sit down with you, listen. They would actually ask for your input on a design that they're working on.
Crazy.
Because they think that you have some type of skill set that, is good to listen to. And I think that was when I was like, this is great. I love it. Because I was the youngest at my first firm by maybe 20 to 25 years. I was the youngest one there. And it was great. They listened and they loved the skill sets that, me came in with, and they listened. And that's like the key thing for me in my first firm.
It's pretty crazy when they just ask you, what do you think? And you're like, what? I get to like have input?
Yeah, or like they give you like a little task, like, hey, I need this, and like the client kind of wants this, and what do you think? And I'm like, all right, well, shit, okay, let me pull out this trace paper and start doodling, and then, then they see something, and then they go and like they trace that, and then you kind of go from there onwards, and it's like a fun process, which is what architecture should be and what it is to me.
Definitely. So, okay. So I gave Luca a pass because he might have to go in a little bit. So he kind of answered the next question. So, Gustavo, answer just your thoughts during college of what you might actually. Let me ask you, Gustavo, are you working in a firm right now?
Right now, I am.
Okay. And that's pretty recent, right?
Yep, I've been there for about a year now.
Okay, cool. I want to make sure you at least like had that insight, or else the next question might be a little awkward for you. But good. So yeah, what were your thoughts in college?
So yeah, in college it was pretty much okay. I gotta get good at drawing. I was expecting a more formal office environment, something more, I guess, organized once I went into my first job. And then, yeah, towards the end of undergrad, at least, it was a lot of, okay, you got to know this program and this program. That's all they want you to know. So you got to know those to go work. And that was pretty much what I expected at the time out of a job. Out of undergrad, I tried applying for some internships that didn't pan out, so I ended up waiting until after I graduated. to actually go and get my first job in architecture. But yeah, it's pretty simple. I didn't really expect us to do much of physical modeling. Again, because from what I heard from other students that were already working or already in internships, it looked like a lot of the bigger firms at least had their own little section that did hand modeling, or people that had did the renderings, and then people who were the cat monkeys and all that. So that's hearing that is what built up my idea what working at a firm would be.
Okay. So you kind of had like a practical knowledge of like, all right, I need to learn this software so I can be useful to a firm because I know that that's going to be my medium of contributing to a firm, which is exactly kind of what happens nowadays. So good on you for that. I think I might even say that was really big focus for me. It was like I need to learn this software so I can actually get a job. So
Which softwares did you focus on? Because the few that
well,
I've worked for, I mean,
yeah, I mean a lot of firms use Revit now.
right.
I didn't even get to really learn that in college. My first job taught me a lot of that. But Gustavo, what about you? Like, what were you focusing on?
So I could only focus, at least during undergrad, I could only focus on CAD and a little bit of Rhino and Lumion, because that's what those were the apps I had access to at the time. I didn't learn Revit until I got into grad school. But yeah, even then, going to the career days and all of that, people were talking about how, okay, they want you to know Revit, and that's the main thing they're going to ask you for about whenever you go and talk to people down there. So that's what I had in my mind at the time.
It's crazy because
I have a question. What is, now that you've learned what you thought you needed to get the job, what is the coolest software that you've learned while in the job?
For me, currently I haven't really needed to use anything other than CAD where I'm working at right now.
Gotcha.
So it's same old, pretty basic right now. On my own, out of school, learning Premiere to do videos and stuff like that. But on my own, I've started to touch a little bit of Unreal Engine 5 or 4 at the time to start trying to model things to maybe, again, because at this point I've run out of my license for the free Lumion, so I gotta figure out another way to do renderings. And Unreal Engine is free, and it has an architectural rendering aspect to it, so I'm trying to explore that now.
That's awesome.
Nice. Yeah. We'll kick it to Juan. What did you think in architecture? Or sorry, what did you think in college what architecture is? What you would be doing?
Well, it was in a way kind of the same thought of Gustavo of what could I bring to the table for these companies? What is it that I learned during college? What is it that I can produce software and digitally for this company or future company to have come from me, because I knew the design and all that comes later on with expertise and seniority. But kind of just thinking what softwares, what type of skill sets can I bring, and how can I apply it for them? Because that was one of my main focuses whenever I'd even interview as well. Like, I gotta make sure I let them know, hey, I'm really good with Adobe, with Rhino, with 3D model. Like, I'm really good with any software. Even if I don't know it, I gotta let them know that, hey, I'm just gonna learn whatever software you have or whatever software you need me to learn right away, because that's just something I really like to do. And that was kind of the mentality I had going into that seeking profession aspect in my life.
I'll give my answer because I'm gonna hop on the same train. Because for some reason I was like a nerd about the whole software and the technical skill aspect of architecture. Because for me, I don't know if it's like the gaming background that I come from, because that was like a big activity in my childhood, but like competition was like a big thing. And going through college, I was like, the more softwares I know and the better I am with them, the better job I'll get, basically. Because I know that firms, in fact, in my mind, I was like, firms only care about my software skills, which looking back is, I wish younger people in college would understand that the idea creation, the design, the stuff that matters, like the party sketching, especially the communication with design making. Like if you know how to really explain what you're doing or explain how you're manipulating the plan and the program, those are skills that really, I guess, matter and will progress you ahead a lot more than just knowing how to group things really well in Revit or something like that. I mean, it's definitely good to have those skills getting into the profession, because you kind of have to have like a foot in the doorstep to even be like recognized, I guess, unless you're taking a job specifically for being on the design team. But that definitely was not my experience. So, Monty, what about you, bud?
For myself, I did not know at all what to expect, because
Really?
the business of architecture is much different from school.
Yeah.
Like the business is so much different. Even describing it as a set or CDs/construction documents, or even saying schematic design, just the whole vocabulary changes, first of all. And so,
Yeah.
even yes, you can be prepped for that, but frankly, I got no like run down. I mean, I would speak with my dad like about this stuff, but nothing too concretely, because you have to also just experience it. Because yeah, he could explain it, but then it would take 10 years, and so I really had no clue on the whole business aspect, and I knew our role as architects to graphically display information, because that's really what we do. And I had no clue, at least on my end with restaurants and bars, where there's an owner, but there's also a tenant, but then there's also the bank, and our drawings are for all of them to get their money right, and then also to have somebody else build it. So it's a multitude of purposeful drawings and drawing sets, because it can't just be one. So we have to kind of get that understanding in school a little bit more of, even though yeah, we do have plans, sections, a model 3D, but that's really kind of a starting point and the very first phase. So to put it this way, I knew that didn't know anything, so I was very open to whatever happened.
It's the best mindset, right? Know that you know nothing. What about you, Vanessa?
And like expected.
Yeah, so
No, I'm kidding.
in college, what did you think you were going to be doing at your first job before you knew what that job was?
Yeah, he praised it how his thought process and meaning of what architects change from in college now, basically.
So I don't really know what I was expecting. Um, I was really clueless. So I knew like I guess by the time I left college, I realized that there's different sectors of architecture. Because I noticed that some firms focused on hospitals, some focused on residential, others in commercial, or some had like all of them. So that's what I noticed, but I guess like in each job I've been learning more and more what our job entails of. I've just kind of been like winging it and like discovering along the way what we do.
Yeah,
Um
right.
I feel like I should have known more, but I remember even like because I was one of those people who didn't know what a stud was until I was in an office, which is embarrassing, but like I don't know, I didn't feel like I don't know. But I remember because I have family that is in construction. They I have a lot of family actually who's in construction, and even my mom's partner, he does he flips homes, so he's kind of in construction as well. And so I know like when I started architecture, a lot of people in my family were really interested. And one when I graduated, it was the summer after, one of my uncles was like, "Oh, do you know about this and this and this?" And I was like, "No." Because I feel like school is just really conceptual. So I was really in for a shock when I started working. And I guess like the first thing they made me do was literally a parking lot. So it was from there that I started building my knowledge on what to expect.
Yeah. It's
Nice,
funny because you mentioned the point that like people would ask you these like basic like construction things. They're like, "Oh, you're in architecture? Can you tell me, why the plumbing on my wall is,
Yeah,
right.
running or
yeah.
something?" It's like, "Oh, yeah. We don't really talk about that in school."
Yeah, like
Right.
I
Yes, we
even
did.
remember one of my aunts, she asked me, "Hey, do you think I can have this wall like broken? Because I think it would open up my
Yeah.
kitchen space." And I was like, I'm not qualified for this answer.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Juan
so
knows
awesome.
everything, so he was prepared for that.
Oh yeah.
Bro, Meta and Kunko taught us this stuff, guys. What's wrong with y'all?
Yeah, they
It
did
still felt
honestly.
like it was in the conceptual space though, because what's in the textbook is generic information, but each building is unique in its own way, and you're using your own systems in that building, and the generic stuff only gets you so far
Yeah, but it's
in
still
a
a
way.
wall and a proof. But it looks as if we lost Luca but gained Uli.
Oh yeah,
There's no
Uli,
camera, but he's in the uh
he's got a voice though.
yeah. So
Are you willing to join this conversation
or
midway?
are you hanging
What are you
out?
talking about?
You sir.
So
Have a
welcome, Uli.
camera or
Hello.
no?
I don't have a camera.
Okay, it's all good.
Well, his icon moves when he talks. That's kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so the question was, you skipped the first question, but that's fine. So while you were in college, what did you think your first job would be like, and what you would be doing in that first job
Mm,
before you got the job?
didn't really have any expectations for it. Usually just go in and see what hits me and adapt to it as best as I can. Um, for the most
Very
part,
good.
through college and seeing that, I mean, a lot of through college, they tell you not to be like a cat junkie and like all that stuff. So I knew that obviously from everyone telling you that at one point you're probably going to be doing that, whether it be through CAD or Revit or any other software, that at some point you're probably going to be in that position. But other than that, pretty much didn't really expect anything.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like the CAD stuff, all the technical skills, I think it kind of consumed me going into a job. But if I was to go back and like say, I would say you should learn that stuff and kind of like master it on your own. And it should be kind of in your skill set in the back of your mind. But the more design oriented things, the big idea things, is what you should really display in a job interview. Like that's what you should be marketing yourself on. If that's what you want to do. If you want to be the BIM manager, then hell yeah, like invest all your coins in the software branch.
Yeah.
Which,
and I agree on
you
that.
know, a lot of people don't know that. I mean, a lot of people in college are just like, I'm in the design branch. Like I'm going all in on that. But you kind of do have to have some kind of foundation of tools to even to do that. So
Yeah, and it's best to be versatile. And like you said,
Right.
If what they have you on currently is you're either jumping on or you go from one job to another, if what they have you on is being a CAD junkie, Revit junkie, whatever it is, hone your skills in that, get good enough to where all the tasks that they're handing you are getting done quick through that, and then they realize that, and it's like, okay, you can do more.
Yeah.
As you're honing your skills in that and learning the software, the more you know about it, the more you know that you can use it in different ways to further develop and improve your design with whatever that may be.
Exactly. Go in with an open mind, but have a pretty solid tool set in your back pocket. I like that. So, did I get out? I didn't skip anyone, did I? No, I didn't. Okay, so here's where we're going to shift it to expectation versus reality. So, I want you guys to think about your very first job, first architectural job. And I want you to think, what were your main work tasks during, say, even like the first week of the job, but certainly like within the first few months of the job? What were you doing? And what was working in an office was probably our first going into an architectural job. It was a first for a lot of us. So like, what was that like, the office culture like, having to sit at a desk 8 or 9 hours a day? And what were the people like? I think someone mentioned this earlier, is like, I think Lucas said, like working on teams of people who are not your professors just yelling down your throat. Now you feel, or you should have felt at least, like you have more of a voice. I can say that in my first job, that was not particularly the case. And so did these experiences, the people, the tasks that you're doing, the office culture, did it live up to your expectations? And what did you like from the job, and what did you dislike? And I know that's a huge question, but basically, did your first job live up to what you were thinking in college? So, oh boy, who wants to go first on this one? Gustavo, looking good up there. What do you think?
So, like I had mentioned earlier, I was expecting something, or where I'm working at right now is I'm working with the principal directly because it's a one person firm pretty much. And we're actually working in the office of another firm. So it's two small firms working out of the same office. It's pretty much, and the office is like a studio loft. I was expecting more like a strict structure to working at a firm, like working at an office, but everything for me so far has been pretty laid back. Like the very first day, I went into the office to work, it was mainly just chatting with my boss, talking about the different projects he was working on, and then just having me look at some tile designs he was planning on using on his one of his current projects, and he had me draw that tile and put together a design of how it was going to be laid out in that project. And so far it's been a similar experience to that. Like every day I talk to him. um Not every day do I need to go into the office in person. I can work from home most of the time. It just depends on what he wants me to do. And then he just tells me, okay, go into this file in the Dropbox and start working on it. Or okay, I need you to work on this right now for me. I'm gonna go have a meeting with the client, so I need you to work on this for me to have that ready for the meeting. So I'm not on one consistent thing for an extended period of time. I'm like jumping from project to project to project depending on what he needs me to do at the time. Again, like I was saying, what I expected out of coming out of school was like, okay, there's this one project, you're gonna sit down and draw everything for it or whatnot. That's what I had in mind. But so far it's pretty, at least for me, my experience is pretty loose. It's pretty, okay, we're gonna work on this. Okay, we're gonna work on that. Like at the middle of last year, he had me working on a logo for a restaurant that we're working on. So instead of doing any like architectural drawings, I was working on Photoshop, putting together collages of different logos, and eventually narrowed it down to one design and finalized that. And that's what they're gonna use as the advertisement logo for the one restaurant they're gonna be opening. But yeah, I was expecting something more like an office, I guess, like working in an office. Just like, okay, go to cubicle, sit down, do your work, leave at the time, and that's it. But no, it's really laid back and like the guys at the office, the principals, they're screaming at each other across the little space, talking about, oh, remember what you did in the '80s, blah 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 blah. Oh,
So you
remember that one
thought
concert?
you thought it was going to be kind of a strict environment.
I was expecting something more strict.
Interesting.
More like this, yeah, like I guess it was like comparing it to what the professors were, the way the professors treated us in school. It was like very firm is the word.
Yeah.
But it's really laid back and loose where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I know that my current boss encourages us to like get up and go take walks throughout the day to, just stay healthy minded. Not my first job, but the one I'm at now. And it's like,
Shots
wow,
again.
like yeah, exactly. But it's like, yeah, we're in an office. It's not like crunch time. It's not like studio 24/7. You can like roll your chair back, do the 20-20-20 roll, which we talked about last time. Make sure your eyes aren't dying, basically. Breathe, go get yourself a coffee in the kitchenette, It's kind of just like, it's people trying, and you realize other people are in the same situation. It's like people just trying to work as comfortable as possible, but at the same time, being efficient at the same time. So, Juan, what do you think
About y'all's talk or about
Or-
my situation?
your situation?
Uh,
Your first job.
For my first job, all right. For my first job, it in a way, yeah, it was honestly what I expected. Honestly, I really was, since it was a smaller firm. It was only 24 when I got on. I think they grew to like 30 at one point when I was there. But it was a small firm. and they were only one licensed architect. Wait, yeah, one licensed architect and two or one other in the architecture field, and then like two other draftsmen. So there wasn't really many architects there. So uh, it was in a way a good opportunity for me to get exposed to a lot of the stuff early on that I needed to know to move on or move up into the role of basically becoming a designer or a project architect in a way. And so it really did start off with me being this new guy who came with a lot of skill sets and would enhance whatever it is that the team needed in the software wise, and then slowly getting into the design aspect of it as well. Because when I hopped on, we were actually doing the Grapevine golf course, and it was barely starting CDs, or not even, it was DD yet still, but getting into CDs, transitioning into that. And the architect was pretty busy on that, and the other one in architecture position was also busy as well. So I kind of took that one into the CDs, and I mean, I just had gotten on, so it was like, dang, I'm already doing CDs for a project on, well, not on my own, but like, it was essentially a plug and play thing for me in that way. But I learned quite so much with that first job. And I think it really helped with the job that I'm at now. And especially since they worked in CAD, and I never really worked much in CAD, only just to print stuff out during school, get the line weights and whatnot. So I got pretty proficient in CAD, and but also being very proficient into the details of stuff. Cause CAD, you basically have to draw it all out your own self. You don't have these families, you don't have a bunch of things that companies already come with. So I had to learn a lot of stuff right away, and it really helped me out. And it was a good experience for me because, I mean, I was super hands-on with it all.
Nice. Pretty positive experience overall.
Yeah, I mean, are we gonna just talk about the beginning, the first part, or are we talking about like the whole first job experience?
I mean, overall, because it wasn't more than a couple years at least.
I was gonna say, because when it gets to me, I'm gonna have to log off soon, so I might wrap it and tie that question in.
Okay.
Yeah, because with
I'm
my first
getting
job,
old and tired.
No, you're good.
yeah,
We'll roll it to you then, Tyler. What was your first job like?
I actually kind of want to finish whatever Juan's thought was. I think. Would you have something?
yeah, I just had a little small thing. I mean,
Go for
it was a blessing with the position I was at, but then it was also in a way a curse for me because I was very software handy. I was becoming basically the CAD guru for the company, and that's the route that I didn't want to take, and that it kind of just became that for me. I was teaching the people even older than me how to use software. I was even giving them the rundown of stuff, and I'm just like, man, I'm not even getting paid for being the CAD guru. I'm just the draftsman basically, but I'm becoming more than that, and it kind of just it brought me down a lot. I mean, I love the firm and I love the work that we did, but it did really bring me down.
Dang. Yeah, you don't want to get stuck in that.
Yeah.
I like to do that.
Yeah, I hate hearing that too, because it's like I kind of joke about this, but I actually do mean it. But like, if you're really good at something, never do it for free. The whole Joker quote, like, it's kind of true. Like, I got stuck into that boat a little bit. My internship, and then leading into that same job after the internship was sort of along those lines. I showed that I was competent in my internship, and they kind of threw me into the fire onto a project that was, it was a $50 million project, so it was a mid-size. It was a renovation, which is hard naturally with these size of elements. But we had, not enough people. All of them were inexperienced with this firm in particular, but had experience in general. So we were all learning what we were trying to do, and I gotta say, it was a steep learning curve for me. Caught on very quickly, but I take a little bit of offense whenever anyone kind of treats me like I don't know what I'm doing, because I do. At least I know the goal if you explain it well enough. If you could explain to me the overall goal of something, then I can get you there. I'm kind of like one where I got the skills, at least in Revit, or at least I can acquire those skills quick enough to where I can usually get you to get whatever you want if you just explain it well enough. But I had constant problems with people not explaining it well enough, people not explaining what they were looking for, or if they were particular about something, they weren't explaining that they were particular about it, and they were just giving me a general task, and saying go for it, but they really wanted specific stuff exactly done their way, which wasn't even the company way. So that, these are the minor headaches. I don't really think these aren't things that weigh on me today. In fact, I've learned a lot of things about that. I learned that I don't want to be that way when I'm teaching something. I learned that I don't like to. I kind of learned a little bit about how I could read on people. A lot of soft skill development, a lot of it, and confidence building. Confidence building was something that I didn't realize I didn't have a lot of. I had built up quite a bit in college, but when you're a senior level in college, you're at the end of your, you're the big dog in the group. In that little fish tank, you're the biggest fish. But as soon as you get out there, everyone knows when they hire you, you don't know anything. You don't know how to do something effectively for them, is what I mean by that. You know a lot of stuff, it's just not useful stuff for them yet. And not that it won't be. It certainly is when you kind of have to skip a beat until you can use that information. For me, I did go into design, so it took a while before me to get there, but once I did, now I can continue on those skills. So it's just a matter of, keeping those skills honed and, trying to develop your pace, making sure that you're not slowing down the team, but also being, for me, it's like being impressive enough to keep giving them the benefit of the doubt and the opportunity, so when I make mistakes, it's okay because I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to move forward. But that way I can keep going, moving up, and keep doing the things that I need to do to make sure the team gets what they need. So that was the one interesting thing, though. I think is that, like everyone else is saying, is that I didn't really expect what it would be like to work as a team. Honestly, I didn't trust it. I don't know if any of you guys felt like that, but in studio, we didn't have a lot of teamwork like that. It was mostly on you. And so I kind of got a little nervous going into firms about having to deal with more people like the people that I went to school with. And it turns out it's not really like that, because you can kind of, if your firm is good, they should pick and choose. They should be selective about who they hire. You can't get, 100 Tom Brady's, but you can get some really good support, people whose I guess their dynamics complement each other in certain ways. It's beneficial. So I didn't expect that, but
yeah. One thing you said was the firm, once you're the new guy, the firm has to teach you how to be useful for their own purposes.
Yes.
Which is you could be working in the field for 3 to 5 years, but then you start a new job and it's almost, you have the technical skills building up, but in terms of what you can do for that new firm, it's going to take you a little bit to like kind of train just for the needs of the firm
That
or
is
the
true.
clients that the firm are working for. So, I mean, there's always going to be learning processes that you got to deal with. It's
Yeah,
not
and if
like it's not like a continuous like learning path all the time, especially when you're changing jobs.
If I could impart one last piece of hope for those who may be listening before I log off, it would be that, based off of your point there, it is more beneficial, and the really smart firms know this already, but it's much more beneficial to hire someone on who is young and hasn't been molded yet. They're like a blank canvas, but they have all the ingredients they need. It's much better to hire them on and to invest in their time and train them on the way that your company works than it is to hire someone who's got 20 plus years experience at some big firm that they only know how to do it their way. Because I've been bitten by that one too. I'm sure a lot of you guys have. You worked with someone like that, and they don't change. They don't change their ways. They don't work as a team member. They do things their way, and that's it. No matter how high up the commands are coming from, they'll still stick to their own ways, and eventually they end up leaving 9 times out of 10. But the ones that end up staying usually, I think, are the younger ones, because if they're getting treated right, if they understand that, okay, with the due time and process that they will acquire, the rank and status, whatever it is they're looking for. I think it's definitely more beneficial.
It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah,
something like that. Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Ty, what do you think?
Well, I guess,
You said that you kind of had like some internships kind of before your first like architecture job. So I'm sure like that kind of set your expectations in a more realistic place, maybe.
kind of. So I guess internships wise, I mean, that just taught me I didn't want to work in a cubicle from 9 to 5 every day. Because those internships I spent pretty much in a cubicle. It was dark, it was sad, it was boring. So I was like, okay, that's not what I want to do. So kind of like an open office was something I was looking for, or I wanted to make sure that I had when I went to. And they were so City of Dallas and then JAR, those are pretty big firms. So those are big companies. So I was like, okay, I want to go to a firm that was smaller. So had a smaller amount of people there. So the firm I worked for during grad school, we were a team of about 10. So it was really small. And it was a lot of residential. So I was in their development sector. And, for a while through grad school, that was good. I was around architecture. I was looking at floor plans and kind of getting to know and learn how to read those and read all the drawings. But as I got closer to the end, when I was starting to think, okay, so I'm about to graduate. Do I want to stay at this firm or do I want to go to look somewhere else to see? And because at one point I was kind of getting stuck at that firm. So I was kind of getting told I was trying to get into architecture. I was told I was. Never happened. I was kind of getting stuck in the development sector. So like, okay, I think it's time to leave. So that ended up at my new firm. And so I guess my expectations going into the firm I'm at now was that, I wanted an office environment that wasn't like studio. So I didn't want to be in a firm where they're going to be yelling at you and kind of like tearing you apart for every single thing. And I didn't want to be doing toilet partitions all the time because I've heard that happens at other firms. So I was like, okay, I would prefer not to do that. And then I wanted to do architecture. So the firm I'm at now completely passed all that because my first projects, I basically PA'd it or PC'd it as basically a new young architect in the making. So that was both very exciting and terrifying to me because I was like, okay, so I just got out of grad school. I'm fresh out of college. I know little to nothing. And you're telling me, here's the project, you're the lead, go for it. So luckily the project went well, but I think that I had my expectations, and I think the firm kind of they met my expectations, but also exceeded my expectations, because I just went in thinking, okay, I'm gonna be helping out whoever the PA is on a project, and they'll be saying, hey, okay, you do dimension the floor plans, or do these, or do that. So I think so. I'm on a team or a firm where like your voice is heard and they trust you and give you tasks that are like you're responsible for, and they're like, okay, go for it.
Nice. So you got like a really good start.
Yeah.
So let's go to Vanessa, and hopefully we can darken the mood a bit. I know her first job because it was my first job as well. No.
Shots again.
I'm sure it's not all bad, but go ahead, Vanessa.
I'm gonna log off real quick. My dog is getting a little unsettled.
You're good. People come and go as you need.
Okay.
So we're just gonna keep the conversation
Thank you for
going.
joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I'll probably see y'all next week. So this is fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, see y'all.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess for my first job, so actually before Strand, I had an internship over the summer that was more low key, basically just first experience, try to get my hands on it. And
I didn't know about this.
with this internship, I wasn't working full time. I was only working 16 hours a week, so almost nothing. But it was useful because it got me into the groove a bit, because I started and I had no idea what to expect. They gave me assignments, and so they gave me the deadlines also for these assignments. Then I would have to look up the code at times. So that was also my first time like really interacting with the code, and especially with the parking lots that I would work on, because that was essentially what I would do. I would do the parking lots for these bigger projects. It was not really anything, but I learned some things from it. I learned what kind of code to look up, and also the differences of code, because there is like the municipal code, there could be city, both municipal and city code are sometimes the same, but there's times where it's not. And interacting with the drawings and code, so that was a good experience. And also the culture there was actually kind of okay. The people were super nice. Every time I had questions, they would answer it. They were so helpful. And also I guess for this first internship, I also made it a point to eat lunch with them whenever I could. So I would have lunch with them almost every time I was in the office. But it was a bit difficult to adjust from being a student to sitting at a desk all day, because I like to move.
Oh yeah.
That was difficult. But then going on to Strand was like my first full-time job. So going from that internship to Strand, it was a bit of a change. It was difficult to adjust at times, because so my other job, I feel like I did have a hard time with sitting down all day. But I got to move a bit. I talked with my coworkers. My coworkers were great. So going to Strand, where I think the only bonus for me there was seeing people from UTA there and having lunch with them. But it was like, even lunch, it was only 30 minutes. So it was like, okay, 30 minutes for this 8 hours of like it was just unexpected. I didn't really have a good experience there. I
What were
so
you doing there?
what was I doing? So I was working with Revit and basically doing CDs for these residential projects we were doing. We were cranking them out basically as fast as we could. It was huge projects. It definitely taught me how to use Revit efficiently. Also taught me more than I expected because I had to do these deadlines in a very fast paced. So I learned really fast. Um, so at the same time, there's just issues between management and also just because I had personal issues with the management, but also I could see that it wasn't just personal. It was like the whole company, especially when they removed the headphones. Like we weren't allowed to use headphones. And
Oh
then
wow.
they had cameras as well. And there was a camera right by my desk. So they said that they would time us if we were gone from our desk too long, no headphones. We weren't allowed to have our phones out. So I had to be like super focused at work, which I mean, I guess I learned how to be without those things for a while, but that was short-lived before COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
just the communication at times between my team lead and myself, it was I don't want to say like I don't know, it's just not a good experience. It wasn't very encouraging. But I was able to like find some good of it until
What were the things that you liked about the job, or
so
that
what I
you got
did
out of
like
the job?
about it, well, I did like that it was the first time I had a experience like a full-time experience. I was grateful I got it because I had actually been struggling to find a full-time job at that time. So I was very happy that I was able to even have the opportunity. So that's what I would keep telling myself when I would notice things I didn't agree with because I was like, okay, well, I maybe didn't get to choose this first experience, but I'm going to make the most of it. And I did really enjoy seeing like my friends, but of course, learning more about the field. Because in this experience, it was like I was able to see the different things people would do. And I was able to make the connection with my internship, like what kind of roles people would do within a company. Because I guess, like, what I did think that what I was expecting out of college was more design because that's kind of what I focused on in school was more design based. It wasn't really production or even construction. So I was able to put different areas into my knowledge and combine it, which that's what I did really appreciate because I did feel like in school I was lacking a bit of the technical side. I did kind of wish in school, like I know we had the structures class and we were taught things. So I feel like I'm the kind of person that I need to see it and implement it. And in UTA, it was a bit difficult. It wasn't like an integration of the two. I guess you could have done it if if you knew it, but I I didn't really. I didn't feel like I needed to was my studio projects. So learning more of that construction side and seeing how the real world is did help me a lot. And so I have only been able to build from there since that first experience.
Awesome. Yeah. Construction documents. Definitely did learn plenty of that at that job. Uli, what about you?
Before you go in, I'm going to go ahead and log off. So thank you all
Okay.
for having me.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Till
dropping
next
in.
week.
Yeah, see you
Yeah.
next week. Bye.
Looks like Monty
So-
and Glenn hopped on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Yuli. What was your first job like, and did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, aside from onboarding, everywhere else basically the same. But first job was actually with you guys. Pretty much expected it. Learning the software and everything, that was pretty fun. There were some hardships in management and the way that they did things there. But aside from that, the team that I was on, for the most part, was pretty fun. And from the time that I was working in office was pretty fun. And learning the stuff, especially from residential code and doing all that stuff, it's pretty fun and very a big learning experience going from that job to my next job, which complete 180. But expectation wise, as I mentioned earlier, from quote unquote the CAD junkie, for the most part, very production heavy and with Revit and everything. But with that came those Revit skills and definitely putting them to use here at my new job.
Of course, yeah. And that's the thing with like being so young in architecture is kind of a blessing because almost everything we do is going to be something new. So we're like learning. So that first job was like, I don't even know Revit yet. So it's fun to learn that. And then it's like, I've never read the IRC before. Do that. That's fun. And I mean, I'm 3 or 4 years in, and I'm still just like learning something new every day. I know a lot of people say that, but legit in architecture, like my boss is 30 years deep, and he's still like, yeah, I'm learning like super basic things still. So I don't think we're gonna get bored anytime soon, which is awesome. And Uli, I lose track of like how many people from UTA actually went to Strand. But of course, during like that COVID time, like I had no track of anything at that point. So
Yes. Awesome. 1, 2, 3, like about 8 or 9 people.
Yeah.
They had gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Ulysses joined like a month or so before we became remote.
Brutal.
Right.
Literally everything that I learned was via remote. It was the best experience.
I was in the office during that whole COVID thing, and I saw they would bring in the new people to train in the office for a bit, and then they would just be like missing the next week. And I mean that means that they were done with their training, just took a computer home. It was kind of depressing. I mean, it's like you don't get to meet anyone except through Microsoft Teams. You just see their little icon, what you get to work with. Pretty rough, but thank God we're out of that.
When you finally met them in person, hey, you look different.
Yeah, exactly. Monty, how was your first job over there in Cali? Did it live up to your expectations?
Yes. No.
What'd you do?
So First off, everybody, welcome in for Nando.
What's up,
Hi,
Fernando?
Fernando.
How's it going?
What's up, man?
Yeah.
Hey, sorry I'm
What was
late.
the?
What's up,
No,
man?
you're good. What
Yeah.
was the context? He was. Y'all worked together at your first job?
Yeah. Now.
Now, okay.
Yeah.
And it is his first job.
Yeah. So my first job is my job now with a COVID hiatus in between.
Right.
And I had a bunch of interviews to try and find a job. So I got a bunch of different feels for these offices, at least as much as one can, going in for an hour or two. But my first job was by far the most interesting interview because I think I said like 12 words because I was spoken to because here like we spoke a lot about we spoke about the technical aspect and having that skill gets you that job. Well, my first job, they actually had a CAD test. And basically, can you take this hand drawn plan drawn from as built dimensions and then can you put it in CAD accurately? Which is like pretty easy, like can you draw a line that's 17 feet 4 inches? You just click and then you push it in and then it's done, But it's also can you plot it, can you print it? Like you have a decent fluency of the program. And so the process of hiring was kind of like, well, do you have some kind of minimum qualifications? Sure, but more, can you pass this CAD test? I came in, it took me really only about an hour or so to draw it, but I had never plotted or X-refed in a drawing or any of that, so I was like, I don't know what to do. So I asked a person by me, and she was like, "Oh, I have to tell when you ask me." I was like, "I don't care. I just want to know how to do it. So if you could just like tell me how to do it, like you could snitch on me, fine. But I think me finishing it and me being resourceful to find out how to do it is
Yeah.
more helpful." And I'll cap it off with this: of all the offices I saw, this is the one that felt the most like a studio because there's a lot of sketching. Every interaction in office is in office, and it's all about this drawing printed out here and speaking about it rather than speaking on a screen. I mean, a lot of our meetings obviously are Zoom. You can't quite always help that. But in the office, the whole design process, like I remember early on, like my first week or so, and the question also was, what was it that first week? But I'm at my boss's desk. It's like 9:30 a.m. Sun is beaming in. We're just sketch talking, and I'm like, oh, this is it.
Nice.
This is a studio vibe. I'm being paid whatever amount, but I'm being paid to figure this out or be taught how to actually in the future myself figure it out. And that's what I found most. But my first and current boss, he understands and speaks a bunch about how it takes 6 months, a year, 18 months to really start making money off of you and like to train you up to that point. So my first week or two, I was just handed old sets and said, hey, study all of these drawings, study how all of us compose it, because on every set, sheet 7.20 is always the schedule, or it's always X, always Y, so understand how it's all put together. And I just open it up and I'm just staring at it like there's just so much information, and how is it able to be absorbed? So between that and staring at code, it was more of getting that feel for the office. And then after a couple of weeks, maybe a week or so, I was put on an actual smaller project or helping out on others, so a much more minor role, because even though I was a college graduate, I had no professional experience, so I'm really like nobody, you know. Instead of being someone of competence that they're hiring to bring them more money than my salary, it's more okay. We're gonna build you up over time.
Right. Yeah. That's the key. I mean, coming into a firm, you got to remember that, like, you're not expected to be all that from the get go. And you are, like, kind of a liability to the firm. Not to be, like, overbearing on yourself, but, like, take your time, and the more you put into it, the quicker you'll accelerate through the firm. So, Fernando, you kind of jumped in late. The first few like topics were like, what do we expect from architecture? Like A, before we even went into college, and then B, while we were in college. What did we kind of expect whenever we've got that first job and we got in the office? What do we think we were going to be doing like on a day to day? And since we're on this question now, you got the job, you're in the office, your very first job. What are you doing day to day? And the office culture and everything that you're experiencing, and did it live up to those expectations that you had years before?
Okay, well, a little bit. I'll start with a little bit of background. Since
Sure.
I'm a little new here. So I born in LA, born and raised. I studied. I got my bachelor's in San Diego. Honestly, I actually went to community college in Santa Monica, and that's how I heard about architecture and New School of Architecture in San Diego. And usually, my kind of path was I didn't um, have too much expectations in architecture. It was something that I was more involved into architecture. That kind of architecture was kind of the next best step. Um, so after graduation, all my expectations were pretty much, you know, things you've heard in school, like people got interns doing some renderings or doing some photoshopping or some just doing some drafting. So I didn't have too much expectations in after graduation. I was just trying to get anything I can get, honestly, because um, it wasn't too much informative other than some job fairs that they had probably once a year at school. Um, my first job, I started as site assistant superintendent here in LA. Started off just there's a main superintendent I was just assisting on, just kind of they were towards the end of the project, so it was just finishes. It was just making sure the tile guy does it correctly. You're managing this person comes and make sure it's planned with the other person. Someone makes a mistake, call somebody to clean it up, and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, yeah, at the moment I was just still trying to find my way. Trying to figure out what it is starting off of right off of school, so you're still trying to figure out what you're good at. Um, I don't think our schooling kind of prepared us too much. It was kind of like felt more like fun and play and just do this and do that. Everything's kind of up for grabs.
Yeah.
It's not so much in this reality that we live in. But yeah, I kind of just jumped from work to work after that. I took another just drafting job. It was a surveying company. It was just red lines, as builds, the simplest as you can get in AutoCAD. Um, it was after that I kind of started doing some freelancing and started picking up some of this odd work. It's just like it may have been some designs that somebody wants or some ADU drawings that somebody's trying to get permitted or, simple stuff like that. And that's where I kind of met um, somebody that was studying in SciArc. And that's where basically I ran into this startup company that was a foreign company, and they were starting their firm in Bangladesh, and it was like a couple years after my graduation. It was still trying to find out what to do. I got this job opportunity abroad, and I just kind of packed my stuff, and I was like, I gave it a try, and it was a startup, so it wasn't you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. It was just like, okay, we're just gonna try to get some projects. We have some fundings and this and that, and it was a couple people, and it was kind of felt like one of those like school projects where you do with a team that you just kind of go somewhere and just try it out. That's how I felt where I was, because I was still trying to like experience, figure out, my path, and I still am. It's very tough, but I think keeping an open mind and not trying to get stuck somewhere just because you need to pay your rent or you need to do that. I think at the end is just follow your gut, follow, wherever it takes you. If it's bad, at least that, it was your decision and it was, you wanted to do it out of love.
Right. I like that. I love that. Yeah, I mean, one thing you said is like straight out of college, I'm just trying to get what I can get. And
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what path to go. Kind of, could ramble a lot about a lot of things.
Yeah, because like, who's to tell us or even prepare us for like architecture is such a vast field. Like, you could go be a renderer, you could be a spec writer, you could go do the technical design. It's like, how do I even know what I want to do? So an important thing from that is to like, I mean, if you're not satisfied with the first job that you took, it's probably you're not going to find satisfaction down the line. So hop to something else. Do it while you're young. Don't find yourself pinholed in one job that you already know that you don't like. Because what would be the point of just continuing? It's just a waste of time for everyone, really, the company as well. So, and that's the awesome thing about architecture is there's like 1,000 different things you can do once you get that degree, and companies will trust you to do it because being in the architecture field is a pretty noble thing. People assume you know how to do a lot of different aspects. Right. Design is a huge topic altogether, so you have some sort of skill in that, and you have lots of value to companies.
It's a huge badge to carry, to be like, I'm the architect in here. Even like when, some of us, I mean, most of us, I'm sure we've stepped in the construction site and we're kind of, people are expecting our, decisions and somehow, and it's like, it's not just something to play around with. It's, it's something to be worthy about because they are, whether they like it or not, you're telling them how to, how to build these things or, how to do things or how to do it the way you have it. But
I mean, architects is one of the few like actual professions out there. You have like engineers and lawyers and doctors who hold actual licenses to do their work, and architects are the same. And sometimes people forget that architecture is, or being an architect is up there in that sort of realm of being a professional. But yeah, I mean, we're the ultimate authority in anything construction wise, which is pretty wild.
At least not in pay.
Exactly, just not in pay.
Yeah. But we're gonna flip that, right, Monty? You're on that already.
We're trying to switch up.
You don't get taken
out by the president.
Something like that. But
all right.
Quick question for Bernie. In that startup, what kind of projects would y'all be doing in Bangladesh?
So pretty much it was, we started off just doing just the basic, just interior work for private projects, just basic design, 3D renderings, producing shop drawings, dealing with the contractor and subcontractors or whatever. It started off very small, but I think, they had an ultimate vision of just, it was mainly architecture. But I think just getting our foot in the door into just more, I guess, bringing in income, quick income was something to go towards. But when I went in there, it was, they brought me in as like project manager. So, at one point we had a couple people working for us, handful of people, 4 or 5 people. So it was just managing some of these projects, some of these interior projects mainly, but we had like a good couple, architectural projects. We worked on some large mosque out there. We were doing some headquarters, head office for for a company out there as well.
Okay.
But it was different for sure. Like I wasn't really expecting that. It was a lot in my plate. It got once we brought in a lot of people, it kind of took somebody to kind of take a role of like, managing and, taking care of these employees, not just as a manager, but it's like, we ask a lot for, out of people, when they ask you stay another 2 hours. And, in architecture, sometimes it's not 2 hours, sometimes it's all night. It gets that bad where it's, you're out there 2 nights, 3 nights, just putting out work just because you got some presentation that somebody wants to see on Friday, and because they're going to golf or whatever next week, and
Right.
Nice, but
Nice.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it was interesting. It was definitely because it was more like, once you get into the more project managing and managing a small office like that, um, there's a lot more that comes into play than just going
Oh yeah,
going to work.
people skills, right? It's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. I think it was a lot that I had to, like, I did some readings on certain things, and how to approach, you can't just, people wear out, and it's just a lot. It was very difficult to take that in just in that short notice. And it was, I wasn't really expecting that. I was just, expecting we're gonna go out there and, you know kind of an equal thing. But it was an amazing experience. And I was out there for 4.5 years. I came back in 2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's exciting.
I'm gonna have to snag that interview here pretty soon. So I'll be calling you.
Yeah. For sure.
Be pestering.
Nice. Well, that was everyone there. Myself is kind of the same story as Vanessa and Uli, except I didn't really. I expected more, I guess, out of the job. My first job, I expected to be like at the drawing boards, making these huge designs for these huge projects. And I didn't exactly know what job I was taking when I took it. But it was basically a production job, doing production homes, where quantity was a lot more important. Not more important than quality, but like the quantity was driving the business. So it's like the more construction documents you get out, the better. And something like that becomes repetitive. The way the company ran, surprised me. I mean, the very first day, at the beginning of the day, what we did was clock in on a very like sophisticated like clocking timekeeping software. And what the company expected is that every second basically was going to be billed to some kind of project, and this software like kept up with all that, which is really interesting because I immediately got like the sense that this company was monitoring its employees. It was like a really corporate feel, and that is not what I expected from an architecture firm. And most architecture firms do not run like that. In fact, I wouldn't even call this really a firm. Is more of a production company aiding in production home clients with plans and engineering plans and all that. So not exactly what I wanted, but like Vanessa said and Uli, I mean, I learned things there and it was my first job, so I enjoyed it. That's all I'll say there. There's plenty more in my little interview, but overall, I take it as a positive experience because learning is always positive. So now we'll bring it around to the final question, and it's not going to be a whole thing, because after all of this, I want you guys to just think and give the very simple answer. If you could go back to your high school self or sometime before college self, would you do it all again? And for all you guys who made it this late, you guys get to answer this. Gustavo, what do you think?
What do you mean by like the architecture side or like the whole entire journey?
Yeah, so basically, would you choose architecture again, ultimately knowing what your job is now? Like Gustavo said, video gaming was on the table at one point. If you were to go back and you had the choice now, knowing what architecture is, would you have rather gone down that route? Gustavo?
I would have just prepared my younger self, be like, okay, be strong, you'll make it through. But I would have still gone with architecture. I mean, if I would have been a bit more prepared, and if I would have done things a bit different, just a little bit different in during undergrad or grad school, if I could have managed to get an internship at some point before graduating, I think I would have been a bit more prepared when I would eventually get my first job.
Nice.
But I would do it the same way, or I would still go for architecture. Hopefully, do things just a little bit more exact.
Of course,
but
of course. But you would
I
still
would still
choose
be
it.
here.
100%, all the
I
way.
think so.
Hell yeah. What about you, Juan?
No, yeah, I mean, I would choose architecture every single time, 100 out of 100 times. And that's not even just because of what everyone might think architecture is, but because architecture is much more than what we even sometimes think it is. Like, it's graphics, it's videography, it is essentially philosophy, therapy, it's education, it's art, it's so many things in one that you can't really, I mean, we technically did put a name on it, but you just really can't technically put a label on the actual work it is, because it can be just so much things. And I've learned so much stuff in this profession, in school and outside of school, that I feel like there's much more than just the opportunities that I want to choose for myself, that if I ever need to choose something else, I have the opportunity to choose it, but choose it also because architecture helped me get there, and it'll help me continue to grow wherever that may be.
Amen. What about you, Fernando?
If I would choose it all over again,
Yeah.
well, I'm not that old, but yeah, I think so. I think I'd do it again, all over again, exactly. If that was the case, I think it's like piggyback off what you just said, and also main thing is you just meet a ton of people in architecture. It's just not one person doing one job. It's not just the architect doing one job. The architect plays a big role, but he does need help from probably 100 or more other people, even for the smallest project. So yeah, just for that reason, just the experience, people I've met, just the road I've taken, just opened up a lot, and it gave me a lot of respect for an architect as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Uli?
Atera is the IT.
Yeah, I'd do it again. Even if there was something that at this point that was just drawing my attention more than architecture, I'd change it. But there's nothing really else that would have me consider something else.
So are you saying you just wouldn't do it because you weren't interested in anything else? Or does architecture still pull you strongly in your heart that if you went back as a young kid, you would still choose it? Basically saying, are you just saying that because there was nothing else on the plate?
There was never anything. No. No. With everything that's out there, expecting the unexpected, not knowing what to expect, is what just drew me closer to this. And yeah, I mean, even now, just like you mentioned earlier, every day you're basically learning something new. Even if you heard it or saw it happen beforehand, just seeing it again, it's always a fun experience.
Right. It's almost like Groundhog Day. Like we wake up the next day and we're like at the beginning of freshman year. It's like holy crap. But you still like remember like everything. It's like holy crap, what could I improve on and gain the edge on this?
Maybe some things you do the same.
Yeah, exactly. Like Fernando said, just do it the exact same because that's where we're at now and things are pretty good. So why not? Unless you got major regrets. Even Strand wasn't a major regret for me. So there's that. Vanessa, what about you?
Yeah, I would say I would choose it again. I would choose it again because I love architecture.
Ooh, Monty.
I don't know what's happening.
Monty. What are you doing?
Alright, try talking.
Hello?
Almost there.
Get him, chat. Get him.
What issue are you having? Is it like an echo or what?
We're almost there, Monty.
Yeah, I don't.
He's trying to auto-tune it.
You put the Kanye effect on
Go
it.
off like Kanye. I would do it again. Lord, take me back.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Is it working now?
Is it working?
Sound good to me.
Did he say it sounds good?
No, I mean I can hear the scream through your mic. Shut the hell up, Vaughn.
Vaughn, chill.
Bro, y'all are lame. This is why we don't get no viewers.
Dang. He said step it up.
You posers.
We got 9 viewers.
We have more
Probably all
viewers.
9 of us.
We're following.
Shout out 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wait, did we hit our goal yet?
One of them's
No,
me.
not yet.
There's 6 of us here, so that's or 7 of us, so that's 7 right there, and then 2. Whose moms are it? Come on, let me know. whose girlfriend?
Mom. Thanks, Mom.
Is it your
Well,
dad?
when we have
Monty?
our video editor with us, we'll
Shout
get
out
more
Miko Borg.
viewers.
You sound good now.
Yeah, we'll tell you about that in the end.
But what's your answer?
Oh, but my answer, yeah, I would choose architecture because I really love it. I love that I can have an impact on people's spaces because it's a lot deeper than that. I feel that we influence culture, we influence communities, we influence just everything, honestly, because all of us interact with buildings. So I know that there's like some growing pains that come with starting this career. However, I think the long term is a lot more beneficial and a lot more fulfilling. So I would choose it, and I don't regret anything about my journey so far because it's got me where I'm at today, and I'm very grateful for where I'm at today. And I'm also grateful that the opportunities are endless and it's still not over. There's like, so every time I feel like I realize something else I could learn that gives me new ideas, or like, because I feel like it, for me, it is a growing pain, the production side, but ultimately I love design and I'm very happy with the field I'm in.
Yeah. Architecture is the gift that keeps giving. What about you, Monty?
I think all of us are in alignment that we would do it again. And my reason is pretty simple. It has spawned so many more ideas for myself than I could ever imagine. Because yes, it is a building, but then, like Juan said, it's all these other things, especially philosophy, sociology, the questions of why these buildings are the way they are, why they are where they are, why they are when they are. And I find all of these questions intertwined. And yes, you can be the traditional architect of I only build buildings, but then you're not thinking about them. Are you not extracting that thought into a book or a speech or great presentation skills or what have you? And I find it to be the beacon of creativity, because what is creativity? It is bringing an idea into reality. So just how in music, oh, I can hear it and then boom, okay, it's the exact same feeling of someone known and then bringing it into actual reality. And whether it's a building or a chair or a lamp or a tile or a book or a speech or whatever it is, but speaking those ideas forward and making them their most concrete form possible. I don't see any other profession out there that deals in such reality. All of us seem to be pretty real people. As in, focus on the rational and the built and our surroundings and environment. And it's wild how many people don't even think to question anything around them, let alone why anything is built that way.
Well said.
Again.
Yes.
All over.
Well, I have to agree with everyone. course I would do it again. Maybe giving myself a little bit more credit whenever, the second time through, if I was to do it again. Because I felt like maybe the way that I ended up at my first job is that I kind of felt like I had to get what I could get, and that was kind of what I was worth at the time. Maybe it was, but maybe not,
Maybe.
Maybe.
Dude. Yeah, but I mean, that's one thing that we always say is know your worth.
Know your worth,
So,
dude.
Know your worth.
I was
That
screaming
needs
it
to
at
be,
you. Taking, I mean, what, 9, 10 people took $16 an hour right out of school? I mean, I understand you gotta do what you gotta do. At the same
hey
time,
man, that's like 20 in LA, right? I'm just
Yeah.
joking. I have no idea.
Inflation out here is a bit more than that. But
yeah, 16 is pretty ridiculous. But yeah.
I have a
That was
question.
pre-COVID though.
What's your question?
Go
I
ahead.
have a question. I have a question for everybody. Just talking about if we would do it again, what would be your alternative if architecture wasn't there? Whether it was something that you thought before that you wanted to do, or maybe even now that something sparks your interest. Like, well, I want to just kind of hear everybody out, a little personal.
Oh, that's
What would
easy.
be your alternative career?
Juan, what is it?
Mine would have been a videographer and graphic designer.
Oh.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we know Gustavo's from earlier. Right, Gustavo?
Yep, I would have gone into video games or something related to that.
No WWE?
No WWE.
WWE is always plan B, no matter what.
Hey, let's go.
You might
Cero
see
miedo.
me.
That's the nighttime
Cero
activity.
What would your wrestling name be? Have you picked one out?
Primordial
don't
Lord,
know.
bro.
There's
Primordial Lord?
all the good names are taken. All the
Yeah.
good names are taken.
Triple
Yeah, you're right.
G is, just the best name out there.
Triple G. I would be the same. Video games. That was my world growing up. Architecture was like my way to convince myself I was doing a video game that's important to real life, which is building a building.
You wouldn't be a producer?
Like a music producer?
Video producer. Movie producer. Like Alamudi's.
No.
You do really good.
That's almost like
Yeah.
an architect.
This is when we need Jamie and be like, hey, pull it up, Jamie.
Pull it up.
Let's
Yeah.
watch it.
Dude.
I'll share that sometime. Nah.
Bro, we need to share it.
Maybe doing directing, but I feel like that's a politics involved, and I'm not about that. So, what about y'all? You love
Yeah,
birds over there.
you guys are still within the realm of this visualization and video games. I think my alternative was, I think it was when I chose architecture school. I was at I honestly, if it didn't work out, I was gonna go into fireman. I was gonna try to become a fireman. There was a good community college by close to LA. I was like, if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna sign up right there, do your 2-3 year program.
Hell yeah.
But yeah,
That's respectable, bro.
Fight fires.
Fighting
Save
the Valley
buildings.
fires.
Save the buildings.
Save the building.
Maybe not build them, but save them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so funny.
Monty's
Yeah,
answer
I never
is
thought about
nothing
it like that.
because his dad. It had to be. No alternative, all right?
He passed him the torch.
Yeah. It was thrown at me and just catch.
Yeah, what would you do?
Modeling.
Yeah, because I've been ugly
Calvin
forever.
Klein.
So, no. Dude. No, but if I could do what I wanted, but don't have the talent for it, or is it a realistic alternative?
I mean, you
No,
would
I
get
wanna
the
hear the
talent
answer.
eventually, right?
What?
You would get the talent eventually.
No, because I would want to be like
Oh,
in like a super talented like musician or something. So
I
like
knew it.
okay.
Singer.
yeah,
What would you play? What would you play?
every
what would you
instrument
play?
at once.
Okay.
No,
Maybe
no.
we
Well, you
do
could pick
narrow
up
it down to
No.
music in
realistic.
any
Bro,
instrument.
I've
So
always
he wanted to
wanted
be the next Slim Shady.
Yeah, exactly. Just spitting those bars,
I
shave
could
my
see it.
head, blonde tips, everything.
Bro,
No,
you
but
look like Yellow Wolf a little. I'm playing.
what? I'm not from Alabama. What do you mean? No, but I've always been horrible at singing, and I'm like, man,
I bet you
never.
could.
I
Let's
mean,
drop a tape.
not to the level of of talented. I could
Just
like,
put auto-tune on it.
yeah, but then I can't do it live, and my favorite
Yeah, you can.
music are those slightly different live variations, where they like push it or they switch it up, or
I know.
You could do it.
True.
Yeah. So, Poster Squad band. No, I was actually in like a small friends band jam session all throughout high school and after basically, and I was like, I'll
Pull
just
up the
play bass.
receipts.
Yeah. What?
I
Pull up
didn't
the
know you were
receipts.
that
We want
way.
to see. We want to see this. I want to see this.
Yeah, I didn't
I'm
know you were
interested.
so into music.
No, I had friends who were great musicians, and I was around them. That's
Like
more.
I knew Monty was into music, but I didn't know he was actually into like playing it.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
that's what I
Oh,
meant.
no, I own a bass and acoustic.
Oh yeah, the
and
guitar. You know how to play
electric
yeah.
guitar,
better than me.
He does everything.
but still not well. But probably some kind of musician, because like digital art, whatever. I think that's more like Tristy mentioned earlier. That's really the most concrete version of that's actually architecture, but music is also its own concrete finality, and just being able to move people with just a chord progression.
Yeah.
And I've always been interested, how can we invoke the same kind of emotions, and is that even possible to put people in that same kind of serene space? Because like I think it's possible, because like why do big churches exist? Or like why did they build these grand spaces, especially in the very first churches? Obviously there's plenty of churches out there which aren't the most grand, but it's more about being able to be at that peak. But how about you?
That's funny because I wasn't thinking about it until now that you mentioned it, because I've told you before, but before anything, like before I realized how hard the world is, the thing I wanted to be was a singer. Because I was just so moved by Selena that I wanted to be a singer. But I'm not a good singer. I just love watching people sing. And then the other one I would say is I'm still interested in like law. I don't think that interest went away. I'm more like interested in seeing like, because what I like the idea about being a lawyer is being like a humanitarian, like representing people who can't advocate for themselves. So like I bring that with me in architecture.
Nice. Well, guys, we made it. We're like what, 3.5 hours in? Almost 3 hours in.
45. And we
Yeah.
started like 10 minutes late.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
Appreciate hosting. And
yeah, thanks for sticking on this long. Fernando, thanks for joining in.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good meeting
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Yeah, Uli, thanks for dropping in as well too.
Yes,
Yeah, Uli, it's been a
I'm
while.
also tired.
Yeah, yeah, and
A shout out to Ty.
yeah, first
Yeah,
time
Ty
telling.
and Tyler. Tyler's becoming a regular.
Yeah,
I think he likes it.
yeah.
I'll
He's in
Fernando, feel free to
kick him
drop
off
in next
together.
week as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get rid of him soon enough. No.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thanks for joining. Next week is not determined yet, but we'll
I
have.
think I will want to do or have someone do some kind of date. It'd be a
Ooh.
little bit more.
Direct debate.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
and
we're
like
going head to head.
like teams and
Oh shit.
yeah, yeah. So I'm
Oh, like for example, create a team, and even if you don't believe it, you have to fight like you do.
right. So I'll probably moderate because you need to have a question person, and
You know, I like this.
so it could be like 2-on-2, 2-on-3, whatever it is. But there's a question, and then one person from each team answers, and then we move on. One thing I think could work in the future as we have more of an active audience is how they've done public debates in the past is there's a question, and then in that question people vote where they stand, A, B, or unsure, and then at the end everybody votes again, and then A, B, unsure, and then it's about the biggest change of who basically won, of because also the person still at the smallest could have the biggest change, and then they actually might win because it outweighs the overall score difference. But that's a bit more later on. But one thing that popped up was just urban versus ruralism, and pros cons is and kind of standing firmly on cities or like towns, and but that's only one thought all crafted here over the next day or so, and then have people basically probably sign up for teams because we probably need people to confirm they're gonna come. I mean, obviously people can still pop in, but more so at least have 2 on each team, hopefully
Yeah.
3 on each, and then go from there. And another bit of housekeeping. So we think we found an editor for at least our main YouTube
Ooh.
videos, and chopping up this into something more, having an intro and then basically rolling through pretty raw. But it's still really important on us that we clip up and still clip up, because really at this point everything is pushing 10, 15, maybe a minute, maybe 2, so keeping it more vertical, and it's easier to ask a person for 15 seconds rather than 3 hours. And so as that more starting point, and the editor is actually her sister. So if you want to speak a bit more on that.
Yeah, so my sister, she went to school at UNT, and she got like a
media production
degree. And so she has been working in like the film industry out here in California. So
Actual films?
yeah, she I know she worked on Ultimatum in Netflix. Not films, but lately it's like more shows.
Yeah.
So she's starting to have some credits on some of these shows. It's kind of cool. I know her name is mentioned or is in the credits for Ultimatum, I think. That's the only one I'm like so sure of. The other one, she's not really doing like the film side of it yet. She's more doing
interns type stuff, like all the stuff that's required to have it actually run, and
Yeah, so she's like working like the red carpet, for example, and driving people around. But she has experience in films, and she did all these projects throughout school. So I asked her to do it and she agreed. And that's it for now. We're kind of doing like a trial run with her that will maybe be about 12 weeks, and then we'll see what will happen from there.
right, and it's just to make
Whoa.
sure. What's up?
I just said, whoa. Sounds like she might be dispensable already.
It's like she has a 3-month probationary period.
Yeah, that's what I heard it.
Yeah, something.
Your own
Well,
sister.
it's more like she.
Bored.
So she kind of like owes me. So
Hey.
this is her
Hey,
way.
there you go.
Yeah,
It's
of
getting
like earning
legal.
it back, kind of.
and then, but I also want to be fair to her, so because she told me that like for her services so for example, she can't go super graphic and put in videos and stuff, but like that would be more. So I was like, okay, just keep it basic for now, and like we'll see where we're at in 12 months, because if
Weeks, yeah.
no 12 weeks, because if this
12
gets to be
months.
popular, yeah, because if it's popular, then we can just pay her with the YouTube fee.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
good motivation.
yeah.
Wait, we're getting paid on YouTube already?
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. Cash money. No,
Where
not
was-
even close.
$1 every 1,000 views or something.
I don't even
Wait,
think
where's
it's
my profit?
that much. But it's more also to get the whole thing edited, so then
And upload it faster.
yeah, so then we as a group can flip it up, because I'm gonna have to be probably just hounding people for help of like, hey, we need like a few clips a week at least, but like hopefully like more, because even as I'm going through it, as each person speaks, it's not like it's just fluff. Often there's value there, so it's like, oh okay, there's 20, 50 clips almost per episode, so being able to space it out as a group, and then also having a dedicated editor for probably each episode, and having them orchestrate other people making clips or what have you. And then another part of housekeeping is, for all of our posts, we want to have more graphic design standards, and then kind of feed everything through one of, hey, some initial thoughts prior to posting, or just because obviously his eye has been like the fucking cleanest, so having a like process, because it's for each person who hosts, it should be on them to come up with the graphics also, instead of it being on just Juan or me or whomever.
Oh yeah, so like Juan would do like the stamp of approval before posting.
Right.
Dang, no more posts.
No, what?
I'm like, I mean, if I don't like it, I can say no.
Right,
I
that's
can
true.
keep saying no.
Exactly.
Well, that means they would have to edit it.
Right.
I'll say no
Never
again.
good enough.
Yeah.
Never good
Right.
enough. All right.
No, I'm playing. No, that sounds good.
Alright, cool.
Sounds like a plan.
But that's about it on my end. Tune in for Gustavo's journey interview on Friday at 8 p.m.
shoot.
Central, 6
Nice.
p.m. our time. Just a shameless plug. Send Bartgwens.
Did you say Fernando's coming up as well?
Sin Vergüenza? Yeah, bro, on the schedule.
Something else.
Me? What'd I say? What'd I say?
No, no.
Are we banned? Oh no. Oh no. Which band?
We're banned?
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
No, it's a joke. No, but I'm gonna try and do ours and Bernie's in person and have it be a little different style than on Discord. And ideally, if I could get to Dallas, we could have like.
Good point.
Yeah.
Are y'all gonna do it on the beach or what? Nice
Yeah,
and romantic.
we are. That's actually what you want.
Candles.
Sunset.
Hey,
Yeah, at
let's
sunset.
go.
Yeah, I actually do want the
Romantic.
Yeah.
Like Matador Beach or something, you know? Just nice scenery in the background.
Yeah.
Kid.
Yeah.
So that is all coming down the pike.
Nice.
Sounds good. To our viewers as
Thank you.
well. I won't be on next week. I know y'all will miss me dearly.
Why not? What happened?
He's going to Mexico.
Bro, I told you I'm going to
Oh, yeah.
Mexico.
Oh,
I'm going
yeah.
to San Miguel de Allende, so I'll be posting pictures for y'all to see. Bro, that's
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, y'all gonna be jealous when I'm over there. Last time I
am
was there, y'all were
already
jealous.
jealous.
We're done.
One added component that we should do. I was speaking with Bernie about it, and like even more architectural case studies or more like architectural research or investigation, and putting it out either in video or graphic form, and have it be a little bit more than just like us speaking, you know. And so if you want to take a bunch of pictures and just and sketch some stuff on and like have a little like why it's so beautiful here.
I
You know.
I would even love like an episode about Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico's so beautiful,
And-
especially where you're from.
Yeah, it's the world.
Beautiful place, beautiful people. What can I say?
Vlog.
Terrible food though. I don't know what happened.
Nah, it would be pretty cool to have some Hoser vlog analysis of buildings and stuff that we see around.
Bro, so feel free and whip out that skill of Mr. Juan, the fucking videographer over there.
The traveler.
Yeah, Mr.
Oh, I'm out.
GoPro. If anything, fucking just GoPro that shit. People love even just walkthroughs of towns. Bro, just walking through, just walking on a street.
You could
bunch
live
of-
stream that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like there's a video of Santa Monica Pier that has like
so many views,
It has
and
millions of
it's
views.
like
It's
just a
just-
person just walking, you know.
through the promenade.
Yeah, live streaming might be tough with the lack of internet or the.
No.
Service is good over there.
Oh really?
Or at least where I'm from.
It's
yeah.
better.
Oh yeah, it was like super sketchy. But I also
Yeah,
have
they
that
did.
Gringo service.
All right, guys.
No comment.
Let's wrap it up. I know it's early for you guys over there, but it's almost midnight here.
Bro, it's only 11:30.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can see Gustavo over there.
Yeah, he's fading off. Okay, bye everybody. Thank y'all so
Oh,
much.
shit.
Oh
He
shit.
said, "Was oh?"
He said now he said I come alive. at
3
night."
more hours.
All right.
All right, peace
Good stream
out.
today, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night. Sweet dreams.
Later, guys.
See you, Uli.